Zimbabwe's president-designate Emmerson Mnangagwa arrived back in Zimbabwe on Wednesday, where he delivered a tub-thumping speech to jubilant Zanu PF supporters in the capital Harare. Mr. Mnangagwa used his first public words after arriving back from South Africa to accuse the Mugabe regime of trying to poison him, and said he decided to act rather than wait for them to eliminate me. He also gleefully referred to Robert Mugabe as the former president, to wild applause from the crowd. Mr. Mnangagwa, who is known as the crocodile from his revolutionary days, also promised a new democracy for Zimbabwe along with peace, security, and jobs. In an attempt to pacify early critics who said Zimbabwe was simply replacing one dictator with another, Mr. Mnangagwa vowed to be a servant to the country and a voice for the people of Zimbabwe, a phrase he repeated dozens of times. Zimbabwe's president-designate Emmerson Mnangagwa, 75, on Wednesday gave his first speech to Zanu PF supporters since Mugabe resigned, claiming he was poisoned and decided to overthrow the dictator before he was eliminated. Mr. Mnangagwa pledged to be a servant to the people of Zimbabwe and promised a new age of democracy for the country after 4 decades of dictatorial rule under his predecessor. Mr. Mnangagwa gleefully referred to Mugabe as the former president, to wild cheers from the watching Zanu PF supporters, as he also pledged peace, security, and jobs for Zimbabwe's ailing economy. There were wild celebrations among Zanu PF supporters who gathered to see the crocodile speak in Harare, following a night of jubilation over Mugabe's departure. Zimbabwe's incoming leader Emmerson Mnangagwa, left, walks into an airport to board a flight bound for Zimbabwe, at Lanseria Airport, northwest of Johannesburg, South Africa, today. And he is pictured right arriving in Harare. Supporters of Emmerson Mnangagwa, the man expected to become Zimbabwe's new president and known as the crocodile, hold a stuffed crocodile and pictures of him as they cheer at Manyam Air Force Base in Harare, Zimbabwe. Emmerson Mnangagwa, left, shakes hands with South Africa President Jacob Zuma during a short visit, in Pretoria, South Africa, Wednesday, November 22, 2017. Zimbabwe's ousted Vice President Emmerson the Crocodile Mnangagwa, pictured here in 2015, will be sworn in as successor to Robert Mugabe at a ceremony on Friday. Mnangagwa was mentioned by, among others, the tycoon Roland at the time of the Gukarayandi massacres. Pictured, Mugabe, center, and Mnangagwa, right, together. Supporters of Emmerson Mnangagwa, the man expected to become Zimbabwe's new president, hold a photograph of him and cheer as they arrive to show their support at Manyam Air Force Base in Harare. Emmerson Mnangagwa fled the country after being fired by Robert Mugabe, but is not set to take over as president of Zimbabwe after the Mugabe finally resigned. Mugabe had accused his former deputy of plotting to take power from him, while his ambitious wife Grace referred to him as a snake that must be hit on the head after the two clashed. Pictured right, Mnangagwa with Mugabe in 2004. I pledge to be your servant, to serve the people of Zimbabwe, to unite all, to make Zimbabwe a better nation for investments and investors, to improve partnership with other nations and ensure development of our country. God bless Zimbabwe, he said. He also used the speech to deliver a furious attack on his political opponents, comparing them to dogs. He said, "Those who oppose us will bark and bark. They will continue to bark, but the Zanu PF train will roll on, ruling and ruling while they bark." Mr. Mnangagwa is expected to be sworn in as president at an inauguration ceremony on Friday and will rule the country until next year's elections. Mugabe's iron grip ended on Tuesday in a shock announcement to Parliament, where MPs had convened to impeach the 93-year-old who dominated every aspect of Zimbabwean public life for decades. He was last seen in public on Friday and gave a televised address on Sunday, but neither he, nor his wife Grace, have been seen since, with their whereabouts unknown. But according to reports out of Zambia, Mugabe has vowed to stay in Zimbabwe and turned down an offer of exile from Zambian President Edgar Lungu. Related articles previous. 1 Next. Zimbabwe's despised Gucci Grace flees to Namibia as British Embassy in Zimbabwe warns UK citizens to stay. Share this article. Share script dm.later, bundle, function, if, dm.rotator, new dm.rotator, p45, page size, 1, page count, 1.0, active class, active, rotate, false, $, p45.share.on, click, function, dms.facebook.post related. Zambia reports quoted Mr. Mnangagwa saying, "I had talked to him and said that if the chips are down you can come here, but he refused, saying that his home was Zimbabwe and he will remain there." On the streets, the news that Mugabe's long and often brutal leadership was over sparked wild celebrations which lasted late into the night, with crowds dancing and cheering ecstatically amid a cacophony of car horns. Mnangagwa, 75, was sacked by the president on November 6 in a move that pushed infuriated army chiefs to intervene, triggering a series of events which led to Mugabe's ouster. Local reports suggested top government officials welcomed Mr. Mnangagwa home and that he was to meet Mugabe for a briefing. Mugabe has vowed to stay in Zimbabwe. Former President Robert Mugabe has vowed to stay in Zimbabwe despite offers of exile from overseas, it is reported. Edgar Lungu, the Zambian president, claimed to have offered the dictator shelter for his remaining days earlier this week, but was rebuffed. He said, "I had talked to him that if the chips are down you can come here, but he refused, saying that his home was Zimbabwe and he will remain there." Source: Zambia reports. Last night, a Zanu PF minister who had spoken to Mr. Mnangagwa via satellite telephone told Mail Online that the new leader was very calm and was urging his supporters to remain focused. Party chief whip Lovemore Matuk confirmed that he will be sworn in as interim leader today before it is made official at the event at the end of the week, with his term due to last until elections scheduled for 2018. The country's constitution stipulates that the handover must take place within 48 hours of a president stepping down. It came as uncertainty continued to hang over the fate of Robert and Grace Mugabe, who are understood to have remained in their blue roof mansion overnight. Members of their close protection team told Mail Online that preparations were underway for the arrest of Grace and the transportation of her husband from the country, but this morning those plans were brought to be still on hold. Robert Mugabe is believed to be hunkered down in his blue roof mansion alongside reviled wife Grace, as the pair wait to learn their fate following the dictator's historic resignation yesterday. The 93-year-old who ruled Zimbabwe for 37 years had been rumored to be due to leave the country for exile abroad last night, while his wife remained behind to face prosecution. But as tens of thousands of Zimbabweans danced all night to celebrate his peaceful ousting, which stopped short of a military coup, Mugabe remained in hiding. Citizens waved flags and chant slogans in Harare after Robert Mugabe resigned as the country's president. Celebrations continued long into the night in Harare as Mugabe finally loosed his grip on power after 37 years. Men hold a mock gravestone for General Chiwenga, one of Mugabe's many nicknames, as they celebrate in Harare. The military has deployed extra troops onto the streets in an attempt to keep the peace amid carnival scenes. More videos. 123. Watch video. Chinese firm built the fastest amphibious assault vehicle. Watch video. Dangerous driver rams motorcyclist with passenger while moving. Watch video. Mugabe's son pours champagne over £45,000 watch while partying. Watch video. Moment woman films a man who sexually harasses her on the street. Watch video. Charles Manson claims he never ordered nobody to do anything. Watch video. Female North Korean defector reveals harsh truths about the regime. Watch video. Gayle King blasts Stephen Colbert for Charlie Rose monologue. Watch video. Shocking Snapchat video shows Marines shouting racial slurs. Watch video. Kill me now. Cop shoots mentally ill man in knife attack. Watch video. 3 different sized cups appear to hold same amount of soda. Watch video. Woman kicked out from Taiwanese wedding she crashed. Watch video. Moment off-duty cop holds baby while shooting suspected thieves. Script dm.later, bundle, function, dm.has, p58, channel carousel module, active class, walk, page count, 3.0, pages eyes, 1, on POS, 0, update stylian hover, true. Robert Mugabe, 93, and his second wife Grace, 52, are reported to be holed up in their blue roof mansion as the military decides their fate. Family friends of Mugabe and members of his security detail told Mail Online that the military were prepared to let the 93-year-old leave the country unharmed, but had a very different opinion when it came to his second wife, dubbed Gucci Grace because of her love of lavish shopping sprees. Zimbabweans in South Africa celebrate. Hundreds of Zimbabweans who fled to South Africa during the despotic rule of Mugabe took to the streets of Johannesburg to celebrate the resignation of the hated president. Blowing vuvuzelas, waving Zimbabwean flags and stamping their feet, Zimbabweans danced their way through Hillbrow, a cosmopolitan Johannesburg neighborhood with a strong community of African immigrants. "We want to go back home, even tomorrow, even now at night. I'm very happy," Nakiwi Kumalo, 60, told AFP, 36 years after leaving Zimbabwe. One of his Mugabe's protection team told Mail Online, the generals promised him he could leave safely. The generals were insisting that Grace must be prosecuted. It was a burning issue on Tuesday. "I don't know what the outcome was, but they were insisting that they might forgive the old man but not Grace." Mugabe was said to be so depressed he couldn't lift his feet as he watched his countrymen celebrate his departure, and was said to be confessing his sins to trusted advisor Father Mukinori. One of the former dictator's security team said, "He is depressed to the extent he is failing to walk. He is dragging his feet. Grace has been refusing to go outside into the open air all day as well," he said. "They both know the end has come and they are deeply depressed. Their greatest worry is what is going to happen to them and their family." He added, the issue of Grace was a burning one. The generals were going to press ahead with prosecuting her for crimes including money laundering, capturing of state assets and interfering with government business. It was Grace's decision to try and oust Mnangagwa from power and clear a path for her own succession to the presidency that sparked the military uprising which ultimately toppled her husband. Members of the military, whose march in Harare last week signaled the beginning of the end for Mugabe, watch as people celebrate upon hearing the news that he has resigned. There were scenes of celebration on the streets of Harare as the world's oldest head of state caved into pressure and ended a near 4 decades grip on power defined by brutality and economic collapse. Politicians broke out into applause and chanting at a joint sitting of parliament when Speaker Jacob Mudenda announced Mugabe's resignation and suspended the impeachment procedure. These were scenes of jubilation in Zimbabwe's parliament as the announcement was made Tuesday that Robert Mugabe had finally resigned after 37 years in power. Harare erupted in wild celebrations this evening as dictator Robert Mugabe finally caved into pressure and stepped down. While Mugabe is still popular among Zimbabweans, the population had become increasingly concerned that his much-loathed wife Grace was preparing to take over. The announcement that he had resigned was met with wild celebrations. Elsewhere on Tuesday, Constantino Chiwenga, head of the country's army, has called for restraint from all parties during handover. Zimbabwe's former Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai said it was time to define a new chapter for the country. Zanu PF's chief whip said Mnangagwa will lead Zimbabwe until the new elections which will be held in 2018. Theresa May has praised Robert Mugabe's departure and has vowed to support the country's transition period. Meanwhile, U.S. Embassy called the resignation historic and said it was a chance to set nation on new path. The operation had all the hallmarks of a coup, but the generals stopped short of forcing him out. As the crisis grew, the Zanu PF party, an instrument of Mugabe's brutal decades in power, removed him as party leader and began parliamentary proceedings to have him impeached. When he saw the turnout of lawmakers, he probably realized he'd better jump before he was pushed, said Derek Matizak, an analyst at the Pretoria-based Institute for Security Studies. A member of the Mugabe family who is close to the deposed president said, "Bob has been holding prayers and confessing with Father Mukinori and the family. He feels depressed now the whole country is celebrating about him going." Robert Mugabe's resignation letter to the Zimbabwean parliament speaker. I, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, in terms of Section 96 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, hereby formally tender my resignation with immediate effect. My decision to resign is voluntary on my part. I have resigned to allow smooth transfer of power. Kindly give the public notice of my decision as soon as possible. The former dictator, who is a Catholic, has confessed to Father Fidelis Mukanori, a priest who had been mediating in his negotiations with the armed forces. Father Mukanori, a trusted aide of the former president, was the man responsible for rousing Mr. Mugabe from his hunger strike, Mail Online revealed yesterday. The despot had been in a state of psychological collapse, asking for his dead first wife and son and refusing to eat, wash or speak. However, after the intervention of Father Mukanori, he regained his strength, took a shower and gave the notorious speech in which he failed to resign. Yesterday, Father Mukanori, who has been a close ally of Mr. Mugabe since the 70s, stepped in to comfort Mugabe as he released his grip on power. Zimbabwe's former Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai said yesterday, "We need to sit down and redefine a new chapter." The origin of Mugabe's sudden downfall lies in rivalry between members of Zimbabwe's ruling elite over who will succeed him, rather than popular protests against his rule. Thousands of people poured onto the streets of the Zimbabwean capital to celebrate. Many had previously stayed indoors, fearful that violence was about to erupt. Activists who had been doubtful that Mugabe would ever leave office celebrated after he resigned following a 37-year RUL. But fear turned to ecstasy on Tuesday night with the news that Mugabe had left office without a drop of blood being spilled. Citizens in Harare take part in an all-night party that began with the resignation of Mugabe on Tuesday afternoon. Mugabe's resignation comes a week after the army and his former political allies moved against him, ending 4 decades of rule by a man who turned from independence hero to archetypal African strongman. The 93-year-old had clung on for a week after an army takeover and expulsion from his own ruling Zanu PF party, but resigned shortly after Parliament began an impeachment process seen as the only legal way to force him out. The U.S. Embassy in Zimbabwe has called the resignation historic, saying it is an opportunity for the nation to set itself on a new path to free and fair elections. British Prime Minister Theresa May said, "The resignation of Robert Mugabe provides Zimbabwe with an opportunity to forge a new path free of the oppression that characterized his rule." In recent days we have seen the desire of the Zimbabwean people for free and fair elections and the opportunity to rebuild the country's economy under a legitimate government. As Zimbabwe's oldest friend, we will do all we can to support this, working with our international and regional partners to help the country achieve the brighter future it so deserves. British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson says Robert Mugabe was a despot who impoverished his country and his exit is a moment of joy for Zimbabwe. Johnson says he hopes Mugabe's resignation will be a turning point and that there should now be free and fair democratic elections and above all not a transition from one despotic rule to another. Wild celebrations broke out at a joint sitting of Parliament when Speaker Jacob Mudenda announced Mugabe's resignation and suspended the impeachment procedure. In a highly symbolic scene, a man removed a portrait of Mugabe from a room inside the Parliament where MPs were gathering for an extraordinary session to impeach the recalcitrant president. Another bystander replaced it with an image of Mr. Mnangagwa. One man jumped on a table in Zimbabwe's Parliament building as Robert Mugabe's resignation letter was read out. This was the scene as Zimbabweans celebrated in Harare Tuesday after the resignation of President Robert Mugabe. People removed the portrait of former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe after his resignation Tuesday. The origin of Mugabe's sudden downfall lies in rivalry between members of Zimbabwe's ruling elite over who will succeed him, rather than popular protests against his rule. Citizens took to the streets to celebrate the resignation today. People danced and car horns blared on the streets of Harare at news that the era of Mugabe, who has led Zimbabwe since independence in 1980, was finally over. "We are just so happy that things are finally going to change," Togo Ndlelambi, 32, a hairdresser said. "We woke up every morning waiting for this day. This country has been through tough times." After a week of political turmoil, Zimbabweans reacted with shock and unfettered joy. "I am so happy that Mugabe is gone," 37 years under a dictatorship is not a joke, said Tinashe Chakanatsa, 18. I am hoping for a new Zimbabwe ruled by the people and not by one person. We need leaders who are selected by the people and not rulers. I am looking forward to get a job after our economy recovers. A man jumps for joy as others celebrate on the streets of Harare following the historic resignation Tuesday. More videos. 1 2 3. Watch video. Chinese firm built the fastest amphibious assault vehicle. Watch video. Dangerous driver rams motorcyclist with passenger while moving. Watch video. Moment off-duty cop holds baby while shooting suspected thieves. Watch video. Like a wrecking ball. Dad hurls son face first into snowman. Watch video. Female North Korean defector reveals harsh truths about the regime. Watch video. Gayle King blasts Stephen Colbert for Charlie Rose monologue. Watch video. Kill me now. Cop shoots mentally ill man in knife attack. Watch video. Shocking Snapchat video shows Marines shouting racial slurs. Watch video. 3 different sized cups appear to hold same amount of soda. Watch video. Woman kicked out from Taiwanese wedding she crashed. Watch video. Huge wasps swarm fly around exterminator destroying massive nest. Watch video. Nick Carter and Michelle Schumann appear in 2004's The Hollow. Script DM. Later, bundle, function, DM.has, P91, channel carousel module, active class, walk, page count, 3.0, pages eyes, 1, on POS, 0, update stylian hover, true. What just happened in Zimbabwe? November 6, after a campaign of public insults against Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa, Mugabe fires his longtime deputy, later accusing him of plotting to take power via witchcraft. Mnangagwa flees the country. November 13, Army Commander Constantino Chiwenga issues a rare public rebuke, saying the military won't hesitate to step in to calm political tensions and criticizing the handling of the once prosperous southern African nation's crumbling economy. November 14, armored personnel carriers are seen on the outskirts of the capital, Harare. The military moves in overnight, taking control of the state-run broadcaster. November 15, the military announces that Mugabe is under house arrest and an operation has begun to arrest criminals around him who harmed the economy. Unpopular First Lady Grace Mugabe, who many feared would replace Mnangagwa and even succeed her husband, disappears from view. November 16, state-run media publish extraordinary photos of a smiling Mugabe shaking hands with the army commander at the State House amid negotiations on the president's exit as the military tries to avoid accusations of a coup. November 17, the army, which continues to refer to Mugabe as president, allows him to make his first public appearance since house arrest. He appears at a graduation ceremony to polite applause. November 18, the bulk of the capital's roughly 1.6 million people pour into the streets in an anti-Mugabe demonstration that even days ago would have brought a police crackdown. November 19, the ruling party's Central Committee expels Mugabe as party leader and tells him to step aside or face impeachment. In a speech on national television, he does not announce his resignation as expected. November 20, the ruling party's Central Committee says it will begin impeachment proceedings. The military says Mugabe and Mnangagwa have made contact and the fired deputy will return to Zimbabwe shortly. November 21, Mnangagwa calls on Mugabe to heed the will of Zimbabwe's people and resign immediately. The ruling party begins impeachment proceedings, which are halted so Mugabe's resignation letter can be read, to cheers. Massive crowds gathered within minutes of the shock announcement to Parliament. Men were break-dancing, women were singing and children were in tears, all brandishing national flags and praising General Constantino Chiwenga, the man who led the army takeover, as the news began to sink in. "It's shocking, that guy is powerful, very powerful," said Barbara Wright Kairambe, one of those who joined the euphoric street celebrations. One boisterous group of women burst into an exclusive Harare hotel, snatched a portrait of Mr. Mugabe and smashed it outside. The women fought off security officers who tried to stop them vandalizing the premises before stealing the picture and breaking it to smithereens. They then danced on the picture before a shirtless man broke it across his knee and ran away into the traffic. Mugabe is the only leader Zimbabwe has known since a guerrilla struggle ended white minority rule in the former Rhodesia. During his reign, he took the once rich country to economic ruin and kept his grip on power through repression of opponents, although he styled himself as the grand man of African politics and kept the admiration of many people across Africa. Mugabe led Zimbabwe's liberation war and is hailed as one of post-colonial Africa's founding fathers and a staunch supporter of the drive to free neighboring South Africa from apartheid in 1994. But many say he has damaged Zimbabwe's economy, democracy, and judiciary by staying in power for too long and has used violence to crush perceived political opponents. The country faces a foreign exchange payments crisis and roaring inflation. Since the crisis began, Mugabe has been mainly confined to his blue roof mansion in the capital where Grace is also believed to be. In his resignation letter Tuesday, Mugabe wrote, "I, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, in terms of Section 96 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, hereby formally tender my resignation with immediate effect. My decision to resign is voluntary on my part. I have resigned to allow smooth transfer of power. Kindly give the public notice of my decision as soon as possible." It comes as it emerged that the despot has been left isolated and humiliated after his demands for ministers to attend his weekly cabinet meeting were dismissed. Earlier, Angolan President João Lourenço said he and South African President Jacob Zuma would fly to Zimbabwe on Wednesday following talks between regional leaders on the crisis engulfing the country. South African President Jacob Zuma and I have agreed to visit Harare tomorrow, Angolan President João Lourenço told journalists Tuesday after a meeting of the Southern African Regional Bloc in Luanda. The two leaders will represent the 15-nation Southern African Development Community, SADC, bloc of which their countries are the leading members. SADC has sought to broker an end to the instability triggered when Zimbabwe's army took over the country after Mugabe sacked his vice president and cleared the way for his wife Grace to succeed him. The Crisis Summit noted with great concern the unfolding political situation in Zimbabwe, SADC said in a statement. Earlier, Zanu PF's secretary, Simon Kaya, told reporters that Mr. Mugabe had been formally notified of the party's decision to impeach him. Robert Mugabe's rap sheet, serious misconduct, failure to obey the constitution and the inability to perform the functions of office. Robert Mugabe's rap sheet was published Tuesday by the Parliament of Zimbabwe. His charges were fourfold: serious misconduct, failure to obey, uphold, or defend the Constitution, willful violation of this Constitution, and an inability to perform the functions of office because of physical or mental incapacity. With regards the serious misconduct, Mugabe is accused of 8 different counts. 6 of the 8 counts relate to his wife, known as Gucci Grace, while the other 2 relate to corruption and the harboring of fugitives. Mugabe is accused of allowing his wife to assume his constitutional mandate, access classified and privileged documents, abuse state resources, insulting the new leader Vice President Mnangagwa, and threatening to kill him. He is also said to have let Grace Mugabe cause disaffection within the country's defense forces by spreading reckless and false allegations against the army. His alleged failure regarding the constitution surrounds a controversial Zimbabwean politician, Professor Jonathan Moyo. Mugabe is accused of unlawfully protecting him. The 93-year-old's inability to perform his duties is spelled out in the charge sheet under 2 clauses. He is accused of not being able to stand up without his wife or an aide holding his hand due to his old age. Mugabe also slept through important deliberations in cabinet meetings, the rap sheet claims. These were all going to be used to oust the long-standing dictator from his position, but he stunned the world by standing down Tuesday. The Chelsea-supporting crocodile who talked himself out of an execution, Zimbabwe's new leader Emmerson Mnangagwa, to take over from Mugabe after they spent decades side by side. Known as the crocodile, Mnangagwa, 75, is a notorious and much feared figure in Zimbabwe, having led a vicious crackdown on opponents in the 1980s with the help of the dreaded North Korean-trained 5th Army Brigade. Thousands of civilians were killed during the Gukuraindi campaign, but Mnangagwa has always denied involvement. His reputation for cruelty is so legendary that he was one of the few leaders of Zimbabwe known to drive around the country without security. He is also known for his unpredictable darting eyes and is understood to be a Chelsea supporter due to his admiration of the club's former striker Didier Drogba. He has had a long and varied political career, leading at one point the Justice, Defence, Housing, and Finance Ministries as well as being the Speaker of the Lower House and a spy master. Mnangagwa's reputation for cruelty is so legendary that he was one of the few leaders of Zimbabwe known to drive around the country without security. Pictured, the former vice president claps after being presented with a fake crocodile as homage to his nickname. More videos. 1 2 3. Watch video. Chinese firm built the fastest amphibious assault vehicle. Watch video. Dangerous driver rams motorcyclist with passenger while moving. Watch video. Moment off-duty cop holds baby while shooting suspected thieves. Watch video. Mugabe's son pours champagne over £45,000 watch while partying. Watch video. Moment woman films a man who sexually harasses her on the street. Watch video. Charles Manson claims he never ordered nobody to do anything. Watch video. Female North Korean defector reveals harsh truths about the regime. Watch video. Gayle King blasts Stephen Colbert for Charlie Rose monologue. Watch video. Shocking Snapchat video shows Marines shouting racial slurs. Watch video. Kill me now. Cop shoots mentally ill man in knife attack. Watch video. 3 different sized cups appear to hold same amount of soda. Watch video. Huge wasps swarm fly around exterminator destroying massive nest. Script dm.later, bundle, function, dm.has, p100, channel carousel module, active class, walk, page count, 3.0, pages eyes, 1, on POS, 0, update stylian hover, true. In 1983, Mnangagwa led a major crackdown in Matabeleland, in the southwest of Zimbabwe. Tens of thousands of people were killed. Pictured, bodies found in Matabeleland after the massacre. Mnangagwa was widely viewed as Mugabe's successor until he was ditched by the president last week and fled to South Africa. Mugabe had accused his former deputy of plotting to take power from him, while his ambitious wife Grace referred to him as a snake that must be hit on the head after the two clashed. Mnangagwa, pictured with Mugabe, 75, has had a long and varied political career, leading at one point the Justice, Defence, Housing, and Finance Ministries as well as being the Speaker of the Lower House and spy master. But Mnangagwa, who recently survived a poisoning attempt blamed on ice cream from Mugabe's own dairy, has been telling lies he would return rapidly and everything would soon be sorted. He is a leader of the so-called Lacoste faction, named after the clothes firm's crocodile logo, which matches Mnangagwa's reptilian nickname, within Mugabe's party. The group enjoys strong support among military figures. It is locked in a struggle with Grace's G40 group. With the events of the past week, the struggle between Grace and Mnangagwa to succeed 93-year-old Mugabe has shifted in the crocodile's favor. Born in the southwestern Zvi's Havana district on September 15, 1942, he completed his early education in Zimbabwe before his family relocated to neighboring Zambia. His grandfather was a traditional leader and his father a political agitator for the repeal of colonial laws that disadvantaged blacks. Zimbabweans sitting in front of Salaberi prison, where Mugabe and Mnangagwa met and forged their political alliance, in 1968 after the triple hanging of James Dlamini, Victor Mlambo and Dooley Shadrack, was ordered by Ian Smith's government, despite Queen Elizabeth II issuing a royal reprieve. He is a leader of the so-called Lacoste faction, named after the clothes firm's crocodile logo, which matches Mnangagwa's reptilian nickname, within Mugabe's party. The group enjoys strong support among military figures. Pictured, Mugabe with Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa was sentenced to 10 years in jail, being kept at Salisbury Prison, Grey Prison, Kami Prison, and Harare Prison. While imprisoned in Salisbury, later renamed Harare, he became close to Mugabe and other nationalist leaders. Pictured, Mnangagwa with Mugabe and Josiah Tongogera, a guerrilla commander. In 1966, Mnangagwa joined the struggle for independence from Britain, becoming one of the young combatants who helped direct the war after undergoing training in China and Egypt. University of London educated Mnangagwa has been close to Mugabe since the two were side by side in the struggle against racist white minority rule in then Rhodesia. Not long after Zanu PF, modern Zimbabwe's ruling party, was formed in 1963, Mnangagwa was sent for military training in communist China. He earned his crocodile nickname when he returned to Zimbabwe and led a gang of fighters called the Crocodile Group during the Civil War. The gang blew up several trains during their operations against the Rhodesian government and, as a consequence, Mnangagwa was arrested in 1965. He confessed to revolutionary activity and was savagely tortured, but escaped the death penalty after successfully arguing that, because he was under 21, he should not be executed. Instead, he was sentenced to 10 years in jail, being kept at Salisbury Prison, Grey Prison, Kami Prison, and Harare Prison. While imprisoned in Salisbury, later renamed Harare, he became close to Mugabe and other nationalist leaders. After being deported to Zambia, Mnangagwa studied law and, in the late 1970s, became a senior member of Zanu PF. When Zimbabwe became independent in 1980, Mnangagwa was named as Prime Minister Mugabe's national security chief. 7 years later, when Mugabe made himself president, Mnangagwa was made justice minister. Members of the black nationalist guerrillas of the Zimbabwe African Liberation Army, ZALA, led by Robert Mugabe, stage a rally on February 6, 1980. Pictured, opponents of white rule demonstrate at a rally in Zimbabwe in 1980, the same year Robert Mugabe won power and became prime minister. His loyalty to Mugabe was rewarded in 2000 when, having lost his seat in parliament, he was appointed to an unelected seat and made Speaker of the lower house. He is a notorious and much feared figure in Zimbabwe, having led a vicious crackdown on opponents in the 1980s with the help of the dreaded North Korean-trained 5th Army Brigade. Pictured, Mnangagwa with his wife Auxilia in January. His loyalty to Mugabe was rewarded in 2000 when, having lost his seat in parliament, he was appointed to an unelected seat and made Speaker of the lower house. Mnangagwa repaid Mugabe for his support during the 2008 elections, with the crocodile said to have steered the president to victory after Morgan Tsvangirai won the first round. Hundreds of Tsvangirai's supporters were killed in the political violence blamed on Mugabe's regime, forcing Tsvangirai to step aside and giving Mugabe a clear run at the presidency. Mnangagwa was then made defense minister and, in 2013, vice president. He once remarked that he had been taught to destroy and kill, although he later claimed to be a born-again Christian. Takava Farajo, a political analyst at Masvingo State University, previously described Mnangagwa as a hardliner to the core. Mnangagwa reputedly has deep pockets should he decide to launch a political comeback. More videos. 123. Watch video. Moment off-duty cop holds baby while shooting suspected thieves. Watch video. Chinese firm built the fastest amphibious assault vehicle. Watch video. Dangerous driver rams motorcyclist with passenger while moving. Watch video. Like a wrecking ball. Dad hurls son face first into snowman. Watch video. Mugabe son pours champagne over £45,000 watch while partying. Watch video. Moment woman films a man who sexually harasses her on the street. Watch video. Charles Manson claims he never ordered nobody to do anything. Watch video. Female North Korean defector reveals harsh truths about the regime. Watch video. Gayle King blasts Stephen Colbert for Charlie Rose monologue. Watch video. Shocking Snapchat video shows Marines shouting racial slurs. Watch video. Kill me now. Cop shoots mentally ill man in knife attack. Watch video. 3 different sized cups appear to hold same amount of soda. Script dm.later, bundle, function, dm.has, p119, channel carousel module, active class, walk, page count, 3.0, pages eyes, 1, on POS, 0, up data stylian hover, true. Military vehicles were seen patrolling the streets of the capital Harare after it emerged that Mugabe and his family had been arrested. At least 3 explosions were heard in the capital, Harare, and military vehicles were seen in the streets. Soldiers patrolled the streets in the center of Harare after a bloodless transition of power. Checkpoint, tanks on the streets of Harare after it emerged that the president, Robert Mugabe, had been detained. Tensions over the succession of Mugabe recently erupted into the open, and had pitched First Lady Grace Mugabe against Emmerson Mnangagwa. More videos. 1 2 3. Watch video. Chinese firm built the fastest amphibious assault vehicle. Watch video. Dangerous driver rams motorcyclist with passenger while moving. Watch video. Mugabe's son pours champagne over £45,000 watch while partying. Watch video. Moment woman films a man who sexually harasses her on the street. Watch video. Charles Manson claims he never ordered nobody to do anything. Watch video. Female North Korean defector reveals harsh truths about the regime. Watch video. Gayle King blasts Stephen Colbert for Charlie Rose monologue. Watch video. Shocking Snapchat video shows Marines shouting racial slurs. Watch video. Kill me now. Cop shoots mentally ill man in knife attack. Watch video. 3 different sized cups appear to hold same amount of soda. Watch video. Woman kicked out from Taiwanese wedding she crashed. Watch video. Moment off-duty cop holds baby while shooting suspected thieves. Script dm.later, bundle, function, dm.has, p132, channel carousel module, active class, walk, page count, 3.0, pages eyes, 1, on POS, 0, up data stylian hover, true. A U.S. diplomatic cable published by WikiLeaks in 2008 claimed Mnangagwa had amassed extraordinary wealth during Zimbabwe's 1998 intervention in gold and diamond-rich Democratic Republic of Congo. He appeared to be on course to become the country's next leader, but First Lady Grace Mugabe did not approve. Last month she warned of a possible coup being orchestrated by Vice President Mnangagwa amid a heated power struggle. She claimed his allies were threatening to kill people who did not support his bid to succeed Mugabe. Grace recently told supporters, in 1980 this person called Mnangagwa wanted to stage a coup. He wanted to wrestle power from the president. He was conspiring with whites. That man is a ravisher. Gukuraindi atrocities of the 1980s. After Mugabe won the election of 1980 and became Zimbabwe's first prime minister, there were fears a potential takeover of the country by the Ndeb ethnic minority may be afoot. In 1983, Mnangagwa led a major crackdown in Matabeleland, in the southwest of Zimbabwe. Matabeleland was the stronghold of Mugabe's political rival, Joshua Komu. Mugabe blamed members of Komu's party for a series of murders and attacks on property in the country. During the operation between 1983 and 87, later known as the Gukuraindi, or the early rain which washes away the before the spring rains, tens of thousands of civilians were killed. The agreement between North Korea and Mugabe for the training of the 5th Brigade was signed in October 1980, when the Zimbabwean Prime Minister met with Kim Il-sung. Pictured, the 5th Brigade in 1982 at Independence Day celebrations in Salisbury. The banner overhead reads, "Let us lay down our lives for CDE. RG Mugabe." The North Korean trained 5th Brigade was responsible for the atrocities, which also included the torture and rape of tens of thousands in Matabeleland. Showing that they had learned from their communist teachers, the 5th Brigade troops summarily detained and executed Ndeb men of fighting age, who were automatically deemed guilty of subversion. Many were also marched to re-education camps, a popular tactic employed by Stalinist North Korea as well as Communist China. The North Korean trained 5th Brigade, pictured training in 1984, was responsible for the atrocities, which also included the torture and rape of tens of thousands of in Matabeleland. On one occasion, in March of 1983, the 5th Brigade slaughtered 55 people, apparently at random, on the banks of the Swale River. The soldiers reportedly forced their victims to dig their own graves before being shot. The agreement between North Korea and Mugabe for the training of the 5th Brigade was signed in October 1980, when the Zimbabwean Prime Minister met with Kim Il-sung. Over 100 North Koreans arrived a year later to train the elite troops. The agreement between North Korea and Mugabe for the training of the 5th Brigade was signed in October 1980, when the Zimbabwean Prime Minister met with Kim Il-sung. Pictured, the two dictators meeting in 1993. But by 1988, the reputation of the brigade, whose soldiers were identifiable by their distinctive red berets, was deemed so toxic that it was disbanded. None of the perpetrators of the atrocities has ever been brought to justice, with those implicated including Mugabe and Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa was mentioned by, among others, the tycoon Roland at the time of the massacres. He wrote to the U.S. ambassador that Mnangagwa, as security minister, was fully aware of the slaughter going on in the country's south.